Hello, and welcome to Michell Consulting Group's webinar series for our Michell University. Today, we're going to be working with Infor FACTS and talking about manufacturing control. This webinar is going to be recorded. It'll be available on our website, so you can see this along with other recordings for our Michell University at www.michellgroup.com. So again, for purpose of today's demo, we're going to be using Infor FACTS version 7.7 for the demo. So let's talk a little bit about the production control. Here from the main menu, we're going to go into production control. And we're going to focus mostly today on the bill of materials, but we're also going to touch on formulation. The two work the same. The difference being is that in your bill of materials, this is typically used for items that you manufacture, components that you put together that really don't change. For example, if you're building a computer, it's kind of a one-to-one relationship. In order to make one computer, you're going to need 3 of these parts and 2 of these parts and so on. And every time you actually produce that piece of equipment or that computer, you're going to make one of them. So again, it's typically used for that type of stuff. If we're going to be producing computers, we're going to be producing tables, chairs, we're always producing one. So we're putting the raw components, again, simply to make a table, we would say 1 tabletop and 4 legs. Every time we manufacture, we're doing one of that item. Formulation is a little bit different. Formulation, what it is used really for in the food industry, in the pharmaceutical industry. It's that you're kind of making a recipe. For example, we're making, let's say, aspirins, and what we're doing is, in order to make those aspirins, we need so much of this product and this product. And when we're done, we're not just going to make one aspirin. We're going to make, 100 bottles with 50 aspirins each, and so on. It's used a lot in the food industry the same way. We're going to make tomato sauce. In order to do that, we need so many, pounds of tomatoes, water, spices, and at the end, we're going to make, say, 50 jars of tomato sauce, and so on. So formulation works that way. It's dealing with, say, chemicals or the food industry and that kind of stuff. Where bill of materials, which we're going to focus on today, is really when we're just producing one type of product. So here we are in the system. We can see our bill of materials. And in bill of materials, we have, again, the planning, the production entry, the printing of the ticket, the production confirmation, and then the final production register. If you notice, formulation kind of is the same way. We have our production entry and planning of the formulation. We have our ticket, we have our confirmation, and our register. So the two act really the same. We're going to focus on the bill of materials for this one right now. So we're going to go into here, the bill of materials. And the bill of materials is the main setup. This is what you determine to be in order to produce that. So again, we have some items we're going to search here in our bill of materials. And we have this item here, I-144, which is the portable capping unit. So you can see here we have this one item, this finished good, and on the screen we would build our components. So here we have this product, and this product is composed of 2 of the scaffolding ladders, 1 of the scaffolding platform, and 2 of the supports. So this is simple. Again, like we talked about, let's say we're building a table. We're talking about a tabletop, 4 legs, and so on. So again, very simple. And this is always going to be the bill of materials. So every time we manufacture this or produce it, this here is designed for 1 scaffolding, as again opposed to formulation where we're producing many of 1. So here we have some information. We can put in an overhead percentage expense. A lot of people tend to do this because it's a little bit of the difference of pulling the parts and unpackaging the parts and so on and preparing the area. So we can create an overhead. In this case, we're putting a 2% of the cost for the overhead. We can see packaging. Again, we're going to put a 5% for packaging, and we're going to add 8% labor, okay, to take care of all our costs. This way we get a true cost when we actually produce this item. So when we go to actually manufacture and produce this item, at the end, what's going to happen with facts is that we're going to produce one of these. So it's going to update the cost accordingly. It's going to take the cost of the components as well as the overhead and come up with the cost of the item. We will use that in our sales for our cost of goods sold. It's also going to reduce the inventory of the raw materials. So in this case, when we produce one of this item, it's going to reduce the component item I-139, the scaffold ladder. It's going to remove 2 of those from inventory. Item I-140, it's going to remove 1. And item I-141, it's going to remove 2. So this is the setup we use. So now let's take a look at how that works. We can do a few things here. We don't have to use planning, but we can actually plan, or we can go right to production entry. Planning just allows us to kind of forecast out. A lot of times what we'll do is the managers will actually plan production maybe for the week or a couple of weeks out. We can then print this report, and then the warehouse can use this. So we can say, okay, on Monday we plan to produce these items. On Tuesday we plan to produce these other items, and so on and so on. This is kind of just a blueprint or a way to follow. In this case, what they can do in the warehouse is they can actually use this when they want to do their production entry. So let's go into the planning. And again, I can do this in one of 2 ways. I can do it by date. I can sort by date, or I can sort by item. Let's choose item. Let's put in our item I-144. We're going to begin with that item. You can see here we have here, for the item 144, you can see here we have 2 plans. We have one that was planned on July 15th, and we have one that was planned on July 29th, both for 4 units. Again, very simple if you want to plan, and we'll plan one for today. So we're just going to add. We're going to put our date. For purpose of the demo today, we're using this date. So this is going to be January 2nd, 2012. We can select our warehouse. Again, what we want to do, here we choose our item. So we're just going to put in our item I-144 because we can actually produce several here. I-144. Okay, and it just tells me what I have on hand. So here we're going to do the units, and let's just go here and say we're going to produce 5 of these. Okay, you can see how it was added. So again, we can continue on if we want to do another one and so on. We can just go here, and we can continue on. So now we have this, and again, we can see this report. If we actually highlight the line, we can look at the requirements. The requirements are going to look at the bill of materials. So if we click on our requirements, you can see what's needed. Again, if we move this over here, you can see that since we requested 5, in order to get those 5, remember it took 2 of the ladder, 1 of the platform, and 2 of the supports. So it's going to take 5 of these in order to build 5. We're going to need 10, 5, and 10. It's giving me this information because obviously we don't have enough on hand. You can see we're negative here. Yeah, that's because of the demo. We will get a warning, and we can set it up that we're actually going to produce. I do have my fax demo set up to allow my inventory to go negative. So we have this. But again, this is just telling me what is needed in the component parts, the requirements to build that. Okay, so that is the planning. Now let's do a production entry, and let's run through the process. So we're going to go here, and we're going to go to production entry. And we're going to, again, we have, as you know, with standard facts, we can go here to do a finished item search to see our bill of materials. We can go here to search all our items. And we can go here to search documents we've already created. So these were already production entries that are sitting here. So let's actually do one here. So let's put in our item I-144. Again, there's our warehouse. We're going to be using this date of January 2nd, 2012. We're going to actually produce 5 of these. Okay, and again, it's just telling me the warning that you can see the subcomponents. We don't have enough in stock. Again, I'm just going to allow it to go through. And we can see here what we've done. So again, what it's done is created the components for me, just like you saw in the requirements. In order to produce 5 of this bill of material, I-144, these are the components. We're going to need 10 of these, 5 and 10. All right? So we can see here, we've created a ticket. That's ticket 215, and very simple. I can go here and I can do a document search, and you can see that I have right here 215. It's not printed yet. You can see it here. We can click OK, and we can make any adjustments we need to it. So again, very simple. We've got our order. So now let's print. So in order to do, we can go into the production print. Here we can print and reprint. As we know from working with standard facts, we have our options to print and reprint. We're going to do print. Again, we can select our warehouse. I'm just going to choose all. We can set our date. And I'm just using this system date here. And here we can select all. So we're going to select all. The production orders have not been printed. We can click OK. And we're going to get our one order here. You can see our production order 215. So if I was to go back now and run that same process, asking for print, asking for all, again, asking for all, we're going to click OK, and we're going to see nothing to print because we've already printed. In this case, we would have to do a reprint. We can go into here, and we can select reprint. And again, we can do all, or we can even search. So we're going to get our right here. Okay, again, a very simple process. There we are, so we have that. So now what we have to do is after we run the production, we have to do a production confirmation. This confirms that production was run. The production confirmation allows us to make any changes. On this ticket, we asked for 5. Maybe we only had a chance to produce 4, and so on. We can make those changes. And then we're going to run our register. So let's go to production confirmation. Again, you can see here, just close that in the background. Again, you can search, and we can look at our tickets. We're going to grab this ticket here. Okay, so instead of 5, we only produced 4. Again, we were looking at the date information. And we're getting the warning because we don't have enough quantity. But again, we allow our system to go negative. So now you can see the change. Now that we asked for 4, if you look at the components, instead of this being 10, it's 8. Instead of this being 5, it's 4, and so on. So we've adjusted because when we do our production register, we're going to be reducing the quantity on hand and updating the quantity here. We can stop at any time the confirmation, just like we can do in the other modules like sales order and so on. We're going to click done and done. Okay, the next step now is to run our register. So we're going to go in and we're going to run our register. Again, we can select tickets, first to last, beginning first to last. So we're going to go here. Again, we're going to put our date. We're going to use our system date. Here, because of our general ledger, you can see our manufacturer control current period is June of 2010. Our general ledger current period is also June, and our inventory control current period is also in June. Now, we know from working with facts, we can post to the current period and one period forward. So here we're just going to put in June 15th, 2010. Just letting us know it's not the system date, because the system date is set for January 1st, 2012, but this is the current GL period. Okay, so you can see here we're going to process the records. We have our one ticket that we confirmed, ticket number 215. You can see the production date, all the corresponding information. You can see the cost that was brought up. Remember, we discussed the cost is coming here from the raw materials. So this item had a cost of $31, multiplying by 8. This one here and so on. So we have this. So this is the component cost. And then remember the percentages. We added a percentage for overhead. So we're picking up that. We added a percentage for packaging and the percentage for labor, which is all coming up. And again, it's giving us our extended cost. We can print the GL distribution. We can see what's going on here. Again, we are going to affect the inventory. We are going to credit. We're using the same inventory account because of the setup, but what we're doing technically is we're crediting the inventory for the raw materials. So we're taking those out of stock and we're putting those into the finished good. The reason why it's set like this is because just for my demo, I'm using the same general ledger account. But I could technically have different GL accounts for inventory of raw materials and inventory of finished goods. So this is always going to just go in and out. So you can see the cost of the individual items, which was the $777. And what we're doing is we're creating the one item, or the 4 items, we're putting it into inventory. So we need to debit the inventory for those 4 items, which is a total of $893, which was the item cost and the overhead. And again, you can see the overhead GL accounts, $15.55 for the overhead accrual, $38 for the packing, and so on. And then any inventory adjustments are going in, again, for differences in cost. So we have our general ledger. Let's just close that. And then here we say yes to update. And like the other registers, we have now updated. Okay, if we go back into the production register and we try to run this again, update. You can see we have nothing to print because we've just done the register. So again, very simple to work with. That's the production. Formulation works the same. We'll touch on that a little bit, but it's the same process. So let's go into formulation. You can see you have the formulation entry. So here again, we can search. And let's say we have this Miracle Cleaner. So you can see here what we're doing. We're taking this Miracle Cleaner here. We're looking at some overhead and some labor. Here we're using just dollar amounts, not percentages. Our standard production quantity is 5 gallons. Okay, so what happens is we're going to use these products. So we're going to use a gallon of this, and so on. A gallon, a pound of the bicarbonate soda here in the loading truck. So based on this, we'll be able to produce 5 gallons of this Miracle Cleaner. So again, that's what the difference between formulation and bill of materials. In bill of materials, we were building the scaffolding, so it's always a one-to-one relationship. We're always going to build one. Here we're taking raw materials, we're taking gallons and pounds and so on. We're blending these together, and we're going to actually produce 5 gallons of this product. Again, similar, just the only difference is when you're working with formulations in that industry. The rest is the same. You can do the item entry, which we saw. We can do the production planning. Again, this screen is the same as you saw on the other one. We can just plan out our production. So if we go here, again, you can see the Miracle Cleaners and the degreasers that are set to go out. Again, if you look at the requirements, because we're producing a quantity of 10, you can see here what it takes. Remember, that formulation was set that when we built it, when we did that, we took the gallon of water and a gallon of this and the 1 pound of that to produce 5. That was going to produce 5 gallons. Here we're producing 10 gallons. So in essence, we're doing twice. We're doing 2 times. So whatever it took to produce 5 gallons is going to be twice as much to produce 10. So you see in our requirements, that's why we have it 2, 2, 2. Again, like we saw in the scaffolding, it took 2 components, and then when we produce 5, it was 10. Here's the same principle. So again, these are the requirements. Packaging, again, you can add additional packaging here, because since we're doing formulation, what we got to do is when we make this, we got to package it. You can see that there's 2 units in a box. So in this case, we're going to make 5 gallons, and then those 5 gallons, we put in 2 units of those into 1 box. Again, you can set all that up for your formulation, and the rest is the same. We can do a production entry. Again, the same thing. Let's just do our search. You can see here we already have an item. Let's go here and do a formula search. You can see here we have that. And again, produce 5 is the formula. So if we were to double this to say 10, it's going to use twice as much. Again, we're just getting our warning because we don't have it in stock. And we can enter our items, and we can set it up this way. Again, just like we saw on the other one, we can set that up. Let's just delete this entry. And then the same thing, we print our confirmation and so on. We also have inquiries. Again, standard in FACTS, we have our inquiries. We can look at a bill of materials inquiry. So here we can look. And again, look at our components. Again, our costs, our requirements. You can see we don't have it in stock and so on. Again, just like you would see in standard FACTS. You can also do the inquiries for formulation. Same thing, general information about the item. The ingredients, as you can see here, remember, was 1 gallon, and we were producing 5 units. So when we ask for 10, we're doing twice as much. So it's not going to do 10 times this and be 10. It's going to do 10 times 10 divided by 5, which is 2, and then that's going to come up with the 2 here. We have reports, and again, we're just going to go through these, but they're standard reports that you would see in FACTS. You can do a bill of materials listing. You can do a bill of materials open production report to see what's out there that has to be done. You can look at your bill of materials requirements reports. This one is used a lot because, as you saw before, when I was running these productions, I didn't have enough stock in hand. So what you can do is you can go here and say item I-144 through I-144. Okay, and again, you can look at all your groupings and stuff. Let's just put this 2 here. And we click OK. We're just going to go our intervals out. So again, you can see how much we have on hand, how much we have ordered, and what we have planned out. That's where that planning is good. When we talked about before, we want to, as managers, we want to do our planning out, and then we can run this report. We can give it to the warehouse, and then they see what needs to be done. So in this case, the total planning was 13. They all happen to fall on this date. But you can see when we planned, we can plan out into the future. That's a nice report for the. And here you can either remove these printed records if you want. You can convert them directly to a production here if you want, or you can do either. So here, if you wanted to control and produce them this way, you can run the report and you can convert these to production orders. So let's see that. If we convert to production, you can see, again, we're getting our warning. So we don't have enough stock, and I'm just letting us know. But again, we're bypassing that. Go through all this. 3 records were updated. So now if we go back to our bill of materials, and we go to our production entry, and we search, you can see here we created 216, 217, and 218. So again, if you want to do it that way, that's the interface between the planning and the production. You can actually run your planning, and then if you decide the planning is okay, you can either do it one at a time like we originally did, or you can run through planning you can actually produce. And you can plan out as long as you want. You can plan for 3 weeks and just run this for a couple days and only produce the tickets you need for that day. But this allows you to bring the information directly in. So again, that's a report that is very helpful and very useful. So we saw that here. That's the report. Same holds true for formulation. Okay, we're not going to go through the same, but formulation will let you do the same thing, the open production. It will actually create the formulation reports. And then here you have a usage and cost change analysis. And this is nice from the accounting side. We just want to run this. Again, we can put in our item. Again, all our component information, and we can run it. I'm not going to run that right now, but we have the information. We have our end of period. Okay, we have an end of period reports, end of period update, like you would see in standard facts. We're just going to do updates. And then in our file maintenance, we have our bill of material file maintenance, formula history file maintenance. If we need to make changes to adjust, maybe we're going live on the system in the middle of the month. We want to bring in from a legacy system the information. And then we have our infrequent file maintenance, again, our static controls, non-static controls, and the general ledgers that we're posting to. So that recaps our webinar today. We talked about FACTS's manufacturing process. We saw the bill of materials, how we can enter bill of materials, how we can plan, how we can use the reports to plan and actually create the production entries automatically through the plan, or we can just go in and we can do those manually. We saw once we do our production, we can do our production tickets. Once we have done our production, we can do the confirmation, we can confirm our productions, and then we can go in and do our post or update. So once again, that concludes our webinar today on Infor FACTS's manufacturing control. As we said before in the beginning, this webinar is being recorded and will be available on our website. You can visit us to view this and other of our Michell University webinars at www.mitchellgroup.com. And we thank you for your time.